Hi.
Hi.
We're coming to you from inside the fur shed today, and we've had some pretty interesting weather the last couple of days. We got about 1.5 feet in the last 24 hours with about 15 mile an hour, 20 mile an hour winds. So I had to walk 1/4 mile from the house to get to the tractor, and the dogs were swimming through drifts, and we were having a good old time. But we got it all blown out, and we didn't have much time to do anything else. But we're going to do a quick Q&A today, and hopefully we answer some questions that are lingering out there, and we'll do our best to explain everything that we do.
One thing is as we go through these fun adventures that we're on, we'd love to hear from you. And so these questions are kind of fun for us because they are coming from you guys. And so please always feel free to ask a question, and we will try to answer them when we can.
So question 1 was, how do we adjust the temperature while cooking on a wood stove?
So this is kind of fun because the very first year, almost 2 years, I cooked primarily on top of our wood stove. And so we had a lot of fun learning how to adjust the temperature and learning how to cook a lot of things, and we ruined a lot of food, and we came up with some really good recipes in the process too. So the main things that you have to think about when you're cooking on top of a wood stove is your airflow and your wood size. So a few things that we talk about is when we're starting our fire or building our fire up, if we want to have a really hot fire, if we're going to sear some meat, or if we're hoping to get something to a boil quickly, we cut our wood size into some smaller kindling pieces, maybe medium size, and then we just open the flue up on our fire all the way, and that just gets a good hot fire going really fast. And that's worked really well for us. The other thing that happens a lot of times is you'll get a good fire going and your stove will be really hot, and then you may just want to simmer some soup, or you want to slow cook a roast. And in order to do that, you need to do a couple of things. One would be to shut your fire pretty much completely down. Just let it smolder, a slow smolder on your fireplace or your wood stove. And then the other thing is you want to get your food up off the top of your wood stove. So we have these really handy, neat old trivets that we have, and we set them on our stove. They're either cast iron or a different kind of metal usually, and this allows us to sit our pot or our pan right up on top of them. It creates a little airspace, and it causes the cooking to happen slower. This can also be helpful when you are cooking meat. If it's cooking too fast, or if you're trying to brown some toast, you can just sit that pan right up on top of that trivet. We often will have just water on top of the stove on one of the trivets. Question number 2 was, what do we do to keep our bodies healthy besides just the day-to-day hard work of off-grid homesteading?
So there's quite a few things that we do. My family generation goes clear back into the Blackfoot era. My 4 times great grandma was a pure-blooded Blackfoot Indian, and she passed down a lot of neat tinctures down through the generations for us to take to better allow our health to be better. And there's some of them that we lost, and there's some of them that we're gaining back again. And one of them is an elderberry tincture. And we have made some, but we haven't made some in a while. So we buy some from a local gal that makes it really good. So it's elderberry tincture is for flu remedies. It's for immune boosting systems. And it does a lot of things other than that we don't quite know of yet. But we see that it helps a lot with sicknesses, and there's a couple other things that we're looking into. There was a tincture that my family took for kidney disease or kidney stones that we're looking into to try to find and get back going again. And there's also one for blood, and that's for keeping your blood clean, and it's, I think it's a plant that the root that they use for the roots, and I'm still looking into those type of things. But there's other things that we do. We eat a lot of our own foods. We prepare our own foods. We can a lot, and we're going to look into canning, pressure canning meats. this summer. So that's something that you guys can look forward to, watching us and learn how to do that. And we're going to do fish and beef. We did stew a couple years ago, which was fabulous. And we used our own steer meat, and it was just really a good thing to do. And we make a lot of canned stuff, so that's stuff that you guys can look forward to this summer. So that brings us to question number 3. How do we preserve our own foods?
This is something we had some practice on before we went off grid. We were really fortunate to live in a little rented homestead that we just called home for several years, and we fine-tuned our dehydration skills and our canning skills, and so primarily right now we do a lot of canning. And pressure canning and steam canning both. As Seth mentioned, we're hoping to get more into pressure canning. One of the big gaps that we're trying to overcome this year is not having to create freezer space either in friends or family's freezers, or we do have one that we keep in a place in another area of the homestead, but we want to totally eliminate that use at all. So our goal is, we do have a little bit of a gas freezer up at our house, and our goal is to not need much more than that little gas freezer, and we want to be able to can, smoke, or dehydrate all of our foods, so that in a situation where we don't have power and maybe even we don't have propane, we still have food that can be preserved. And hopefully this summer we'll also get a start on our root cellar, and that'll be another fun project for this summer that you hopefully will get to see a bit of. All right, so question number 4 was, how do we reduce our waste, and do we compost?
So we do have a composting bin, and it's not the greatest one, but it was given to us to try, and we use it primarily for our chicken manure and the waste that we use in the house, like our vegetables and our egg shells and other things like that we don't usually feed the chickens, but a lot of our waste that we use, we feed to our chickens. But there's still stuff like your paper wastes and your plastics and stuff. We try not to use much plastic at all, but it's hard nowadays. We've converted a lot of our stuff to stainless steel, glass. We use a lot of glass. I brew kombucha, and it's all glass, and so we kind of think of that mindset, and we don't use any Teflon, anything like that. We use all cast iron. And so that's kind of the way that we found to help with the waste, is just use things that or make you better. It'll not have toxins going into your food when you're trying to cook it or when you're trying to carry it and stuff like that. And so we usually have a mindset of keeping as much waste down as possible. There is a few things that we're trying to get better at, and there's any ideas out there that you guys have that will help us, that would be great. We're still learning on that kind of part of it, because we did come from a generation where, it's recycling is not of a very big thing. So now my grandparents and their generation, they grew up in the Depression, so they saved everything. So we're trying to figure out how to better learn from that generation to think of, okay, what can we use or what can we reuse instead of getting rid of it. So that's kind of the way that we've made it for us to make things more reusable. So I guess besides answering questions, we've maybe just given you a bunch of our goals for this year too, and that's exciting. I'm excited to share with you and what we're doing, and I know Seth has some fun projects for you, and I think that as we move into the spring and summer that we have some exciting things coming. So as we wrap up our winter, we'll have a few more fun projects for you every Wednesday, but let us know some things that you want to see, because we're in project planning mode right now. Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel so that you have access to that new information as we release it, and we're excited to share it with you. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye.